It was almost midnight. Rain was falling hard outside, tapping against the windows like 100 tiny fingers. The wind howled through the trees, and thunder rolled across the sky. Ethan sat alone in his small living room, sipping a cup of tea. He had lived in this quiet neighborhood for the last 5 years. No friends, no family, just silence. He didn't mind the silence anymore. After losing his wife in a car accident 3 years ago, peace had become his only comfort. Then, knock, knock, knock. The sound was soft but clear. Ethan froze. He wasn't expecting anyone. Not at this hour. Slowly, he got up, walked to the front door, and looked through the peephole. Nothing. He opened the door anyway, and his heart skipped a beat. A small boy stood there, no older than 7. His clothes were soaking wet, sticking to his thin body. His brown hair was messy, dripping with rain. He had no shoes, no bag, just big, scared eyes staring up at Ethan. "Hey, where are your parents?" Ethan asked gently. The boy didn't answer. Ethan looked around. The street was empty. No car, no adults, just darkness and the sound of rain. He waited, hoping someone would appear from the shadows, but no one did. "You're freezing. Come inside," Ethan finally said, stepping aside. The boy walked in slowly, not saying a word. As soon as he stepped into the house, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went back to normal. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Must be the storm, he whispered to himself. He brought the boy a towel and a blanket and helped him sit near the fireplace. The boy sat still, silent, staring at the flames like he hadn't seen fire in years. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. No answer. "Are you lost? Do you need help?" Still no answer. Ethan tried again and again, but the boy stayed quiet. Not even a single word. Just those big, sad eyes watching the fire. Ethan didn't want to scare him. Maybe he was in shock. Maybe something terrible had happened. So he stopped asking questions and made the boy some soup. Later that night, he showed the boy the guest room. The boy walked in, curled up on the bed, and turned his back. "Good night," Ethan said softly. The boy didn't respond. Ethan closed the door and sighed. Something felt strange. Not just the silence, but the air. The whole house felt colder now, even with the fireplace burning. He checked the windows. All locked. The security system was on. He went to bed, but sleep didn't come easy. His mind kept thinking about that boy. Who was he? Why was he alone? And why wouldn't he speak? Finally, around 2 a.m., Ethan fell asleep. But at 3 a.m. sharp, something woke him up. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm system was going crazy. Loud, piercing sirens echoed through the house. Red lights flashed in the hallway. Ethan jumped out of bed, heart racing. Was someone breaking in? He grabbed his phone and rushed out of his room. And that's when he saw him. The boy was standing at the end of the hallway. He wasn't crying. He wasn't scared. He was just staring. His small body was still, his eyes wide open, fixed on Ethan. Ethan took a step forward. "What's happening? Are you okay?" The boy said nothing. Then all the lights in the house turned off at once. Everything went dark. Only the red flashing alarm lights remained. Ethan reached the alarm panel and tried to reset it. No luck. The system wasn't responding. He turned to look back down the hallway. The boy was gone. Ethan ran to the guest room, empty. The bed was untouched. The blanket was folded neatly. Just as he was about to call the police, the alarms stopped on their own. Complete silence filled the house. And then, a small whisper came from behind him. "I can't go back." Ethan spun around. No one was there. It was a cold and rainy night in the suburbs. Thunder rumbled like distant drums, and the sky lit up with flashes of lightning. Rain hit the windows in fast, heavy drops, and the wind howled through the empty streets like a ghost searching for someone. Inside a small, quiet house at the end of Maple Street, a man named Ethan Cole sat alone in his living room. The fireplace burned softly, giving the room a warm orange glow. A half-finished book lay beside him, but he hadn't turned a page in over an hour. Ethan was used to silence. He had lived alone for the last 3 years. After his wife died in a car accident, he moved to this quiet neighborhood, far from the noise of the city. He didn't talk to his neighbors much. He didn't go out often. His world had become small, and he liked it that way. Then, just past midnight, something broke the silence. Knock, knock, knock. It was soft, but clear. Ethan sat up straight. His heart skipped a beat. Who would knock at this hour? He lived at the edge of town. No one ever came here without calling first. He stood up slowly, grabbed his phone, and walked to the front door. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. He turned on the porch light and slowly opened the door. And there he was. A small boy, no older than 7 or 8, stood alone on the doorstep. His clothes were soaked, clinging to his thin frame. His hair was dripping wet and his hands were trembling. He had no shoes, no umbrella, no bag, just his bare feet and wide, frightened eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ethan finally broke the silence. "Hey, kid, are you okay?" The boy didn't answer. Ethan looked around. The street was empty. No cars, no adults, just darkness, rain, and the soft hum of wind through the trees. "Where are your parents?" Ethan asked again. Still no answer. The boy simply stared at him with a blank, tired expression. "You're freezing," Ethan said. "Come inside before you catch a cold." The boy didn't move. But then, slowly, without saying a word, he stepped into the house. As soon as the boy crossed the doorway, the lights in the house flickered. Ethan frowned. "Must be the storm," he muttered, trying to stay calm. He grabbed a towel and started drying the boy's hair and arms. "Here, take this blanket. You can warm up by the fire." The boy said nothing. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink much. He just sat down on the carpet near the fireplace and stared into the flames. There was something about the way he looked at the fire, like he had seen it before, like it meant something to him. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. No response. "Do you want to call someone? The police? Your parents?" Nothing. Ethan sighed. He wasn't sure what to do. Maybe the boy was mute. Maybe he was traumatized. Whatever the reason, it was clear he needed help. Ethan went to the kitchen and made him a bowl of warm tomato soup. He brought it back and placed it in front of the boy. The boy looked at it for a few seconds, then slowly picked up the spoon and began to eat. Still in silence, that gave Ethan some comfort. "At least he trusts me enough to eat," he whispered. Though, storm outside continued to rage. Lightning flashed again and again, making strange shadows dance on the walls. Every time the thunder cracked, Ethan noticed the boy flinch, just slightly. After the boy finished his soup, Ethan showed him the guest room. "This can be your room tonight. You can sleep here. It's warm and the door locks from the inside, so you'll be safe." The boy walked in, looked around once, then sat on the edge of the bed. Ethan handed him a fresh towel and left some dry clothes on the chair. "Sleep well," he said. The boy didn't say anything. He didn't even nod. Ethan closed the door and walked back to his own bedroom. He tried to sleep, but his mind was racing. Who was this child? Why was he alone in the middle of the night during a storm? Why didn't he talk? At first, Ethan thought about calling the police, but what would he tell them? That a mute boy had appeared out of nowhere? They would probably take the child away to a shelter. And something about that felt wrong. Ethan felt like the boy didn't need more strangers. He needed someone who cared, at least for one night. Eventually, Ethan drifted off to sleep. But at exactly 3 a.m., his eyes shot open. The house alarm system was going off. Loud sirens echoed through every room. Red emergency lights flashed on the walls. Ethan jumped out of it, heart racing. What the hell? He ran to the alarm panel in the hallway. It said, but the front door was locked. He had checked it earlier. Then out of the corner of his eye, Ethan saw movement. At the far end of the hallway, the boy was standing there. He wasn't crying. He wasn't scared. He was just standing, still, silent, staring directly at Ethan. Ethan's voice shook. "Are you okay? What happened?" The boy didn't answer. Ethan stepped closer, and then all the lights went out. The hallway turned completely dark. Only the red flashing light from the alarm remained. Ethan turned on his phone flashlight and shone it down the hallway. The boy was gone. He ran to the guest room. The door was open. The bed was empty. The blanket hadn't been used. The clothes were still folded neatly on the chair. Dry. Where did he go? Ethan whispered. He checked every room, every closet, nothing. The front door was still locked from the inside. The windows were all shut. No signs of a break-in. No footprints. No water on the floor. Nothing. The alarm suddenly went silent, just as suddenly as they had started. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Ethan stood in the dark hallway, breathing heavily. Then from behind him he heard a whisper. A soft, sad voice. "I can't go back." Ethan spun around. No one was there. His hand trembled as he reached for his phone to call someone, anyone. But the screen was dead. Battery 100%. And yet it wouldn't turn on. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Morning arrived with a gray, cloudy sky. The storm had passed, but everything outside was wet and silent. Water dripped from the trees. The streets were empty. The world looked like it had been washed clean. But Ethan's mind was anything but clear. He sat on the edge of his bed, still holding his phone. It was working again now, as if nothing had happened. The alarms, the lights, the whisper. It all felt like a dream. But it wasn't a dream. The boy had been real. Ethan remembered his face, the soaked clothes, the silent stare. He remembered the 3 a.m. alarm, the red lights in the empty hallway, and that whisper. "I can't go back." What did it mean? Ethan walked to the guest room. The bed was still neatly made. The clothes he had left out were untouched. He checked the carpet. Dry. No wet footprints, he muttered. How? He checked the front door again, still locked. No signs of anyone leaving the house. It didn't make sense. No child could disappear like that. Not without a trace, but Ethan wasn't ready to call the police yet. Something told him that if he did, he might never know the truth. He decided to go through his security system. He had cameras at the front door and inside the hallway. He opened his laptop and clicked on the footage from last night. Midnight. He saw himself opening the door. He saw the boy step in. But the camera glitched. Right when the boy crossed the threshold, the video turned into static for 6 full seconds. Then it resumed. The boy was already in the living room. What the hell? Ethan whispered. He fast-forwarded. Around 3 a.m., the camera at the hallway caught something chilling. The boy was standing in the dark hallway, completely still. His face was turned toward the camera as if he knew it was there. Then, without moving, the video froze again. For exactly 10 seconds. When it returned, the boy was gone. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his heart thudding. This kid, he's not normal. Still, he didn't feel fear. He felt curiosity, concern, a strange pull to find out who the boy was and why he ended up at his doorstep. Later that afternoon, Ethan drove into town. He visited the local police station and spoke to a young officer at the front desk. Any missing child reports recently? Ethan asked casually. The officer looked at the computer screen. Not in this area. Closest was a case from 5 years ago, but that was in the city. Why do you ask? Ethan hesitated. Just thought I saw a kid wandering last night during the storm. Well, if he turns up again, let us know. We'll take care of it. Ethan nodded, but didn't leave his name. Something told him this was bigger than the police could handle. He stopped by the local diner to grab a coffee. While waiting, he noticed something strange in the old newspaper rack beside the counter. Most papers were current, but one tucked between the others had a date from exactly 5 years ago. And on the front page, local boy vanishes from foster home. During thunderstorm, search still ongoing. Ethan's fingers froze. The photo was blurry, but the child looked very similar to the one who had appeared at his door. Same big eyes, same sad face. Ethan read the article. The boy's name was Daniel Grayson. Age 7. Went missing during a lightning storm in 2020. The home had no signs of forced entry. Security footage showed Daniel going to sleep, but he was never seen again. They searched for weeks. Nothing, not a single trace. It was like he had disappeared into thin air. Ethan paid for the coffee, grabbed the paper, and hurried back home. Back at the house, he sat by the fireplace and stared at Daniel's picture. "Daniel, is that your name?" Suddenly, a noise made him freeze. A soft knock from inside the house. It came from the guest room. His stomach tightened. Slowly, he stood up and walked toward the door. The hallway was quiet. The room door was closed, but it hadn't been earlier. He pushed it open. The boy was back, sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing the same clothes from last night. Still barefoot, still wet, even though it hadn't rained in hours. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "How did you get back in here?" he asked softly. The boy didn't answer. He looked up. This time his lips moved. "My name is Daniel." Ethan's heart thudded. I saw your picture. You disappeared 5 years ago." Daniel nodded slowly. "I know." Ethan stepped closer. "Where did you go? What happened to you?" Daniel looked away, his eyes dark with fear. "They took me." "Who? Who took you?" But Daniel didn't answer. Ethan sat on the floor in front of him, staying calm. "Daniel, I want to help you, but I need to know. Who took you? Where have you been all this time?" Daniel whispered. "They come during the storm. When the thunder is loud, when no one can hear you scream." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Who are they?" Daniel shook his head. "You can't stop them. No one can. Daniel, if you don't tell someone, they'll keep hurting people. Is that what you want?" Daniel looked directly into Ethan's eyes. For the first time, his voice grew strong. "They didn't take just me. There are others trapped in places no one can see. And now, they know I'm here." Ethan's body tensed. "What do you mean?" Daniel's eyes flicked to the window. "They're coming tonight." Lightning flashed in the distance. A low rumble of thunder followed. "No, it can't be," Ethan whispered. "It's supposed to be clear all week." Daniel stood up, his voice trembling. "They don't follow weather. They make their own storm." Ethan felt panic rise in his chest. He grabbed his phone to call someone, but once again the screen went black. Full battery, no power. And then the lights in the house flickered. Once, twice. Then the whole house went completely dark. From somewhere outside, the sound of thunder roared louder than it should have. Daniel whispered one final thing before vanishing again. Ethan didn't sleep that night. After Daniel vanished again, the house felt heavier, like the air had thickened. Every corner seemed darker than before. Every sound felt louder. He sat in the living room with a flashlight facing the front door. The storm outside had come out of nowhere, just like Daniel said it would. But this wasn't a normal storm. The lightning didn't just flash. It stayed in the sky, like cracks in glass. The thunder shook the walls. At 2:07 a.m., the doorknob rattled. Ethan held his breath. No one knocked. No one called out. The door just trembled. He didn't move. He remembered Daniel's warning. If they knock, don't open the door. But what about if they didn't knock? He waited, heart pounding. After a minute, the shaking stopped. Then came the whispering. From the walls, from behind the fireplace, from beneath the floor. Ethan turned his flashlight. Nothing. He stood slowly and walked toward the hallway. As he moved, the floor beneath his feet felt wrong. Not creaky, not soft, just unreal, like it was there but not solid, like walking on memory. He pointed the light at the wall near the guest room. The wallpaper was peeling, but beneath it was something else. Fingerprints. Dozens of small handprints pressed into the wall, like children had been reaching out, trying to escape. His hands trembled. He touched one. The wallpaper rippled, like water, and then the light in his hand died, pitch black. Ethan backed away, but his feet felt heavy. The whispering grew louder, one voice, then two, then 10, crying, begging, calling for someone. Then silence. Ethan turned and ran toward the kitchen. He needed light, real light. He grabbed a candle from the drawer, lit it, and placed it on the table. It gave him only a small circle of safety, And in that circle, Daniel appeared again, sitting in the same chair as before. "I told you they were coming," he said softly. Ethan nodded, breathless. "I didn't open the door." Daniel looked tired. "They don't need the door. Not anymore." Ethan sat down across from him. "Where are the others? The ones you said are trapped?" Daniel looked around slowly, then pointed to the walls. "Here, and here. All around." "You mean this house?" Daniel shook his head. "Not just this house. Any place touched by their storm. Any place where fear opens a crack." Ethan swallowed hard. "Why me? Why my house?" Daniel's voice was quiet. "Because you let me in." Suddenly, the candle went out. A sharp, high-pitched ringing filled the air. Then, the hallway light flashed on by itself. Only one bulb, flickering. And beneath it stood a tall, thin figure. Not a man, not a woman. Its skin was pale like paper, eyes too wide, mouth not moving but still whispering. Ethan froze. Daniel stood up. "They found me," he said. "They don't like when someone escapes." The figure began to move, slow, glitching steps like a broken video. Ethan stepped in front of Daniel. "You can't have him." The whispering grew louder, angrier. Then the figure stepped into the kitchen light and stopped. Ethan noticed something in its hand, a photo, old, yellow, torn. He took it slowly, and his blood ran cold. It was a picture of a group of children, in the same house, his house, same kitchen, same hallway. And in the center of the photo stood a young boy, Daniel, but next to him, Ethan saw another face. One he recognized, his own, 10 years old. Smiling, his hands started shaking. "This can't be," he whispered. Daniel looked up at him, eyes sad. "You were one of us, you just forgot." Ethan's breath stopped. "I was taken?" Daniel nodded. "But you came back. You forgot everything. Most people do." The figure took a step forward. Daniel pulled Ethan's hand. "They're trying to fix what they call the leak. You remembering, that's a leak." Ethan stared at the thing. "What do they want from us? To stay forgotten." Suddenly, the figure lunged. Ethan grabbed Daniel and ran upstairs. Doors slammed behind them. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. He pulled Daniel into the attic and locked the hatch, but when he turned around, Daniel was gone again. In his place was something else. A box, old, wooden, his name carved into it, Ethan. He opened it with shaking. Hands inside were things he hadn't seen in decades. A toy airplane, a small notebook, a child's drawing of the house, written on the back, "Don't let them inside, even if they look like you." Suddenly, footsteps creaked above him on the attic roof. Then a voice called out, "Ethan, it's me, Daniel. I'm locked outside the attic. Please open up." Ethan stared at the hatch. He whispered to himself, "You were just here." The voice called again. This time not a child's voice, low, wrong, empty. "I said open the door." Ethan backed into a corner. He now knew the truth. The real danger wasn't outside the house anymore. It was already inside the walls. The footsteps on the attic roof had stopped. But Ethan didn't move. He stayed in the corner of the attic, holding the wooden box close to his chest. The child's drawing, the one with the words, "Don't let them inside, even if they look like you," was now shaking in his trembling hands. He couldn't trust the voices anymore. Not even if they sounded like Daniel. Especially not if they did. Minutes passed. Maybe an hour. The wind outside howled, shaking the windows. The house groaned with age and pressure. Finally, Ethan stood. He took the notebook from the box. Inside, the first page had something scribbled in childish handwriting. "They hide in forgotten places. The old ones, the broken ones. That's where the cracks live." Ethan didn't fully understand it, but one thing stood out to him. Forgotten places. He remembered something. When he first bought this house, the agent told him there was a sealed room, an old storage space between the kitchen and the hallway, long covered up during a renovation. No door, no window, just a wall. But now, he had to see it. He climbed down from the attic. The house was too quiet. The air had grown colder. Time felt slower. He passed the kitchen, flashlight in hand, and stopped near the old coat closet. According to the original floor plan, Ethan had kept a copy somewhere. There was supposed to be a narrow space behind this wall. He opened the closet and tapped the wall at the back. Hollow. His heartbeat quickened. Ethan grabbed a crowbar from the garage and came back. One strong pull and the drywall cracked. A second pull and a hole opened. Dust poured out. The smell that came next was old, forgotten, like books, rain, and sorrow. He widened the hole and stepped inside. It was a narrow space, just as he remembered. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, blue with stars. Children's drawings covered the wall. Most were normal, clouds, trees, stick figures. But one drawing stopped him cold. It was a picture of Ethan himself, standing next to Daniel. Drawn, with crayons. At the bottom, written in tiny handwriting, Ethan and Daniel, the last ones who remember. He turned around. In the far corner of the room, someone was sitting. Daniel. His face looked tired, older somehow. His hands were folded in his lap. "I thought you left," Ethan whispered. "I never really left," Daniel replied. "You just stopped seeing me." "What do you mean?" Daniel looked up. "You weren't ready until now?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I remember the games we played. In this room, the hiding, the whispers behind the walls. I thought it was all a dream." "It wasn't," Daniel said. "We were here. All of us. Trapped." Ethan stepped closer. "What happened to the others?" Daniel's voice was quiet. "Some gave up. Some forgot completely. The ones who fought disappeared. They became part of the house. Part of the storm. And me? You escaped once, but you left something behind." "What?" Daniel pointed to the far wall. Ethan turned his light toward it. And there, in red crayon, were two words. "Help me," written in Ethan's own handwriting. "I left myself behind," Ethan whispered. "Yes," Daniel said. "But now, you came back. That means it's not too late." Suddenly, the house shuddered. A deep rumble filled the room. Not thunder this time. Something else. Something. Alive, Daniel stood up. "They know you found this place. This was the only room they couldn't control. It was built from our memories, not theirs." The walls began to pulse. From the cracks, black mist seeped through. Ethan backed toward Daniel. "We have to go." Daniel shook his head. "You need to find the truth first. It's the only way to stop them." "What truth?" Daniel pointed toward the floor. Ethan knelt down and wiped away the dust. A trap door. Small, old, and locked with a chain. He broke the lock and opened it. A ladder led down into the dark. Daniel placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "I can't go with you this time." "What? Why?" "You were always the last one who could break the cycle. I was only here to help you remember." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Will I see you again?" Daniel smiled gently. "If you remember me." "I'm never really." Knuba. Then Daniel faded, like smoke caught in wind. Ethan climbed down the ladder alone. The trap door closed above him. He was now in a narrow tunnel. Dirt walls. Cold air. No light except from his flashlight. The whispers were louder here. Names. Begging. Children's voices. He walked slowly, heart pounding. Finally, he reached a wooden door. Burned into the center were the words, "Memory is the key." Ethan took out the drawing from earlier, the one of him and Daniel. He pressed it to the door. Nothing happened. Then suddenly, the door creaked open. Inside was a room filled with objects, toys, photos, school books, shoes. Each one had a name. Each one belonged to a child. In the center, on a table, was his own photo, from age 10. He picked it up. Behind it was a list. 20 names, all of them marked lost except one. Ethan Ward, recovered. As he stared at the list, the storm outside began to fade. The whispers grew quiet, and from somewhere, behind him, a voice spoke. Ethan stood frozen in the underground room. The photo of himself at 10 years old still trembled in his hand. On the list before him, 20 names were written, children like him, marked as lost. Except one, Ethan Ward, recovered. But something felt wrong. He looked at the list again. At the very bottom, written in smaller letters, was one last name. Daniel, unknown. His chest tightened. Why unknown? He whispered. A sound echoed from the tunnel behind him. A low, dragging noise like something heavy sliding across the dirt floor. Ethan turned off his flashlight, held his breath, listened. Then, silence. He stepped back into the tunnel and slowly climbed the ladder. As he pushed open the trap door, the house above him was completely dark, still, too still. No storm, no wind, no creaking floors, only the sound of his own breathing. He stepped into the hallway. The walls no longer pulsed, the air no longer whispered, but the shadows were deeper, like the light itself was being swallowed. He walked past the living room, past the fireplace, and then he saw something that stopped him cold. A new door. Right, where the old wall had been. Dark wood, tall, cold to the touch. A metal sign was bolted to the center. This door never opened. Ethan stared at it, heart pounding. This door hadn't been here before. Not ever. He placed his hand on the knob, but it burned with cold. He backed away. Suddenly, a knock. From inside the door. 3 soft knocks. Then silence. Ethan whispered, "Daniel." No answer. Another knock. Louder this time. He remembered Daniel's warning. If they knock, don't open the door. But what if it really was Daniel this time? What if he was trapped again? Ethan turned away. But something inside him, some deep, forgotten feeling, pulled him back. He took out the drawing again. Him and Daniel drawn in crayon. The last thing Daniel had given him before disappearing. He slid the drawing under the door. Nothing happened at first. Then the knob clicked. And slowly. The door creaked open just a few inches. Inside, it was pitch black. A cold wind blew out of the gap. Ethan stepped forward. "Daniel?" he called. Then suddenly, a hand grabbed his wrist, thin, pale, ice cold. He gasped, tried to pull away, but another hand reached out and then another. Hands of children grabbing, pulling, whispering, begging. "Help us. Don't go. Remember us." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "You're all still here." Then one voice rose above the rest, not begging, but commanding. Deeper. Wrong. Not a child's voice. "You shouldn't have remembered." The EO hands yanked him into the doorway. Darkness swallowed him. The door slammed shut behind him, and the house was silent again. Ethan fell. Not down, but through memories, through shadows. He landed hard on cold stone. He opened his eyes. He was no longer in his house. He was in a massive, dark hallway lined with dozens of doors. Each door had a child's name carved into it. Some doors were wide open, dark and empty inside. Some were chained shut. One had his name on it, Ethan Ward. The door to his left said, "Daniel," but it was cracked open, just slightly. Ethan took a step forward, heart pounding. He opened the door marked Daniel and stepped inside. It was a small, square room, no windows, a single chair in the middle, and sitting in the chair was Daniel. But he didn't look like a boy anymore. He looked pale, weak, older somehow, like time had stretched inside this place. Ethan ran to him. "Daniel!" Daniel opened his eyes slowly. "You made it. I'm here to get you out." Daniel shook his head. "You can't save me unless you break it." "Break what?" Daniel pointed to the ceiling. Ethan looked. Up, dozens of black threads hung down. connecting Daniel to the walls, to the chair, to the floor. Each thread hummed with a whisper. "These are my fears," Daniel said softly. "They feed on fear, memory, and pain." Ethan stepped back. "How? Do I break them?" Daniel looked at him with sorrow. "You already did when you remembered, but now you have to let go." "Let go of what?" "Your guilt. You left me. You forgot me." Ethan's voice cracked. "I didn't mean to. I was just a child." "No," Daniel whispered, "but your guilt keeps the door open." The air around them shook. A shadow formed at the doorway. The tall, pale figure stepped into the room, the same one Ethan had seen near the kitchen before. Its voice filled the space, echoing from everywhere. "He belongs to us." Ethan stood between Daniel and the shadow. "No, not anymore." The figure stretched its hand forward. "You can't protect him," it whispered. "You never could." Ethan's hands balled into fists. "But I can now." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the crayon drawing, the last memory untouched by fear. He held it high. The moment the figure saw it, it screamed. Not loud, but sharp and painful, like glass cracking in the soul. The threads began snapping one by one. Daniel gasped, sitting straighter. The shadow rushed forward, but Ethan didn't back down. "You only win when we forget who we are." The last thread snapped. The light in the room changed, warmer, softer. Daniel stood up, free at last. The figure dissolved into dust and vanished. Ethan grabbed Daniel's hand. The hallway of doors began to collapse. "We have to go," Daniel yelled. They ran through the darkness toward a single beam of light. Light poured in from the end of the dark hallway. Ethan ran, holding Daniel's hand tightly. Behind them, the doors collapsed one by one. Names faded. Walls cracked. The world built from broken memories was dying. As they reached the final beam of light, Daniel slowed down. Ethan looked at him. "We're almost there. Come on." But Daniel didn't move. "I can't leave yet," he said. Ethan's heart dropped. "What do you mean? We did it. We broke the chains." Daniel looked down. "You did. You remembered. You broke free. But I was part of this place for too long." "No!" Ethan stepped forward. "You're real. You're not just a memory. I saw you. I talked to you." Daniel smiled softly. "I was real, but I stayed when the others left. I tried to help the next ones. Then I became part of the house." Ethan's voice cracked. "I came back for you." "And you saved me," Daniel whispered. "But some things can't go back to how they were." The hallway shook violently. A voice, deep and angry, echoed through the ruins. "You broke the rules." Ethan turned. The shadow from before was coming back, weaker now, but still crawling through the cracks. Daniel turned to him. "You have to go, now. Close the door." "I'm not leaving you." "You have to." Daniel stepped back. "If the door stays open, it will find more children. It will feed again. You're the only one left who can end this." Ethan stared at him. Tears rolled down his face. "You're my brother," he whispered. Daniel nodded. "And I always will be. But now it's your turn, to protect others." The light around Ethan began to pull him forward. Daniel faded back into shadow, smiling. Ethan screamed his name. Once, then, again, but Daniel was gone and Ethan fell forward into light. He woke up on the floor of his living room. The morning sun peeked through the window. Birds chirped outside. The storm was gone. The house was quiet, but not the same. Ethan sat up. His body ached. His heart was heavy. Had it all been a dream? He looked around. The new door was gone. The wall was sealed again. No crack. No mark. He rushed to the coat closet. No hidden wall, no sealed room. He checked the attic. No old box, no drawings. Everything was normal. Too normal. Then, just as he was about to give up, he saw it, tucked under the living room rug. A single piece of crumpled paper. He pulled it out slowly. It was the crayon drawing of two boys holding hands, Ethan and Daniel. His hand shook. Tears welled in his eyes. He hadn't imagined it. He remembered. He kept the drawing in a frame by the front door. Every time he passed it, he whispered, "Thank you, Daniel." Weeks passed. The town called it a freak storm. The power company blamed faulty lines. No one believed Ethan's story. He never told them, but he knew the truth. One morning, Ethan started volunteering at a shelter for runaway kids. Every time, a child came in, scared, silent, cold. He knelt beside them and asked, "Do you remember who you are?" And sometimes, just sometimes, the child would look at him, eyes wide, and whisper, "I saw the hallway too." Then he knew. The door was still closed, but the danger was not gone. It was waiting, behind walls, in forgotten memories. But now Ethan was ready. He had remembered, and that meant